When the big one hits the west coast, it'll trigger a tsunami of appalling power. It's called the Cascadia Shockwave, and the event is overdue, but not overlooked.
We can expect somewhere in the 20-meter range.
Basically a 60-foot wall of water?
Yes.
Hard science and common sense are teaming up to help hundreds of coastal communities survive the coming blow.
If you have an aware community, you can all survive.
I'm Anne-Marie McDonald. This is Shockwave, a special edition of Doc Zone. Just another day on the West Coast, where everything looks normal. But how can anything be the way it was, now that we've all seen those horrific home videos? And yet, as deadly and destructive as it was, the Indian Ocean tsunami has opened a door to new science that could help the world survive the next one. And chances are the next one could happen here on the west coast of North America.
Tsunami warning. Please evacuate to higher ground.
It will be among the world's largest earthquakes.
It'll dwarf 1906 and Katrina, and it will be many dozens of Katrinas all at once.
This is the unthinkable.
The Cascadia subduction zone earthquake and the tsunami that'll come with it will be virtually identical to the one in 2004 in Sumatra.
The Sumatra Fault is almost identical to another crack in the ocean floor along the west coast of North America. The Cascadia Fault is the same length, has produced the same magnitude 9 quakes and the same killer waves. Cascadia will destroy on a geographic scale far larger than any of the famous California earthquakes, covering more ground than 1906 in San Francisco, wrecking more freeways, bridges, and infrastructure than any of the Los Angeles quakes. Because when Cascadia rips loose, 5 cities, from Victoria and Vancouver to Seattle, Portland, and Sacramento, will be hit all at the same time. As a broken slab of sea floor snaps loose, it will lift a mountain of seawater. When that mountain collapses, it generates a series of elliptical waves, a train of tsunamis that will tear across the Pacific for 12 hours. The West Coast, Alaska, Hawaii, Japan, Taiwan, New Zealand, Australia, all will get slammed by Cascadia's waves.
A Cascadia earthquake today is going to disrupt that global infrastructure in a way we've never seen anything happen before.
Coastal towns from Northern California to Canada will be virtually wiped out, and there'll be significant damage in all the coastal cities along there as well, all at the same time.
We are tied to Japan. We are tied to Taiwan. We are tied to the Pacific. And certainly that's true of Vancouver and Seattle. That's the main stuff coming into those ports and harbors. That's the entry point. And Cascadia is going to shut that down.
When is this likely to happen? Good question.
We may be able to narrow it down to a matter of years or decades where the probability is elevated.
I don't know that we will ever be at a point where we can forecast earthquakes to the accuracy that society would need.
Do you think prediction is ever going to be feasible? Under certain circumstances, yes.
Well, I'll tell you something I'm absolutely sure about. The next Cascadia earthquake is one day closer today than it was yesterday.
Is there anything we can do to reduce the loss of life and property damage?
We can tell you with the technology we have today where it will be 100 feet and where it will not be 100 feet. What we don't want to have is just the assumption that it's hopeless, because it's not.
You can be safe during a tsunami if you know what to do. At this time, we're going to call this drill a success and stand down.
If we don't start talking about it, if we don't start thinking about it, we're certainly never going to be prepared for it.
The Indian Ocean disaster happened the day after Christmas 2004. But in North America, it was still Christmas Day when the news broke. And just by chance, one of the world's top tsunami researchers happened to be in his laboratory at work. Vasily Titov was making adjustments to his latest numerical model of a tsunami when the news began to trickle in from Sumatra.
The report from CNN that 15 people died in India. In India, it was thousands of kilometers away from the source, so that definitely gave me some idea that it's a huge event.
Titov is one of the few people in the world who really understands how a tsunami works. He and his colleague, Chris Moore, had already developed a computer model of a previous killer wave, one that devastated the Japanese island of Okushiri back in 1993.
The Okushiri event in Japan, this was in fact the first one that we've tested our model against in terms of real event simulations, because it was the most studied and the largest event before Sumatra, really. So we got a lot of data on that, and we did want our model to compare well with the data, and that's what this model had showed us.
I like this part here where you can actually see what wave refraction is. The deep water here travels fast, slower over here, so this wave front bends as it comes around. And then also you'll see the wave train here reflect off this headlands in the model here.
What this visualization showed us is something that nobody has seen, because this happened during the night, so people could not see what's going on offshore. The wave withdrew from the coast and forms the hydraulic shock.
The second wave competing with the retreat from the first wave, creating a standing wave pattern. Right about here is where it's forming. So this water is receding just as the next wave is coming in. It's almost forming a standing wave.
That's the first time, this animation is the first time I saw anything like that.
Assuming he'd got it right with Okushiri, Titov put his model to the test on a much bigger scale with the Sumatra wave.
The only data we had available was a tide gauge record on Cocos Island, which is south of the source of Sumatra. It's in the Indian Ocean. And so Vasily was able to take that information and invert it into his models and get a fairly accurate representation of the tsunami.
Then a bit of luck. A NASA satellite measured the height of the wave in mid-ocean.
The satellite was actually passing over as the tsunami was propagating.
And that is exactly the kind of data that we need to verify our model.
Vasily's new computer model did amazing things. It showed that the tsunami would bounce off one island and hit the backside of another.
So it came to Sri Lanka and hit hard this coastline of Sri Lanka. On the backside, it was protected, it was sort of shielded from the first wave. But then the wave came to Maldives, reflected from here, and then hit the backside of Sri Lanka with much stronger waves.